Alright, so here's a little video like I had promised you, basically just for the purpose of panning and nothing more. I don't have any processes, any effects, there's absolutely nothing going on whatsoever. I simply have my DAW loaded and I have 4 tracks. For first chair A, B, and C, I'll be using violins, 1 for the demonstration. Basically, you can get into an advanced setup with VE Pro and still use the ARC with multiple icons and yada yada. I don't get into all that. I basically still record each track individually, or at times I'll record them all at the exact same time and then go back and individually modify the mod wheel and the velocity and the expression. So I like to keep my tracks completely separate. So at any rate, I just wanted to show you, here's our 4 tracks. I'm connected to a VE Pro session, 64-bit VE Pro session, and each one has its own MIDI channel. 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, over in VE Pro, I already went ahead and just added 4 tracks in Contact 5. I basically loaded the legatos of each section. Now, I got rid of the portamento and glissando just to speed through this, just for legato purposes, just to get through the video. So let's go ahead and begin. Basically what I would do is the first things first. I already did it, unfortunately, just before I started the video, but this is what it would have looked like as soon as I had loaded the 4 instruments. A, B, and C would have been dead center panned in Contact. So we're starting with the panning in Contact. So A, B, and C is all set. They left Contact alone and left it center panned, and that's good. However, all the first chairs of all the sections, all of them have panning within Contact. So the first thing you need to do for every section is get rid of the panning in Contact of all of your first chairs. So right now this has nothing to do with MIR. We're not using MIR at all right now. So after I've done that, that was violins 1. I could have done violins 2, violas, cellos, and basses. I would have went to each first chair and moved all the panning of the first chairs back to the center. So now all 4 sections within a section are all center panned in Contact. Now let's move on to how I would center pan these due to the fact that they're seated, recorded in their proper seat in the room. So basically, first chair A, B, and C slightly pan differently naturally because of the room acoustics and where they were in relation to where the microphone was when they were recorded. So what I would do is I would load an effect here. I'm going to use VSL's Power Pan because that's my favorite. So bring up a VSL Power Pan here, and I'm going to play just the first chair. So let's just solo the first chair for a second here. Now, I apologize for the poor audio quality because I'm not routing my microphone input and all that stuff to give you, I'm not recording my DAW's audio inputs. I just have a little headset on, so what you're hearing is the audio out of my studio monitors also bleeding into the microphone that I'm speaking in, so I don't have a separate mic, so it's going to sound like crap, but you'll get the point. The point is it's what you're going to see on the screen that's more important than what you hear. So at any rate, just to give you, so you can see we're only playing first chair, and that's fine. When I look now with this power pan running, split, complete dead center, when I hit a note, I can see the stereo is absolutely dead center. So both the left and the right are equal in power. So to me, that looks awesome. So already with that first chair is done. It's perfectly center panned and ready to go. Now let's solo the A. I'm going to add another power pan. And this time, it's going to start getting more dramatic on the panning. Okay, so that's coming strong left. And I can hear it. You may not through this setup that I have right now, but you can clearly see that that sound is very strong left. So I'm going to basically move it over until I get a nice balanced I usually change a couple notes because some notes have quite a different idea of what's centered. I still see it slightly winning on the left, so I'll just a pinch more, and that should basically be good enough. Okay, so there it is. That section A is now ready. It's completely center panned. I can hear it right in front of my face, right in front of the dead center of my monitors, right between my screen. So that one is ready. Move over to B. I'm basically repeating this for each section. Move the mod wheel, turn it up some. Now see, with B, section B was recorded more to the right of section A. So basically it's already more panned closer to the center, so it should take less and less as we go on through the sections. So I'm going to speed it up and throw it over to here, which might be a good first rough guess. That's pretty close. Looks like it's about right there. There. So that's good for me. I mean, for the purpose of the video, you get the point. That's good enough. Let's move over here and solo this last section. Now this one is going to be a combination and is a bigger section, and it's closer to the center of the field, so it's going to not need as much panning as the others. So I'm going to just throw it about right here and see what happens. It's already looking pretty good. Maybe a pinch more. And I could spend all day. That looks good to me. That's good enough. So basically at this point, and you can sit there and tweak it until you get it. One thing I want to note, I don't know everything about these plugins, but I swear by these VSL plugins. This power pan seems to work a little differently than the others. You might have one in your DAW that works the same, but I don't seem to lose any of the audio signal when I'm using this power pan. It just isn't like the other plugins, the cheaper ones I've used in old DAWs like Logic and whatnot, which actually seems to crush stereo signal, meaning just remove. So you do end up with a center pan, but what you're actually ending up with is a loss of audio. So with this one, I love it because I lose no audio at all. It simply redirects where the audio frequency strength is directed. So right now I'm just directing the full signal to the dead center by having it narrow this. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but you'll need to make sure you find a plugin that works the same way so you're not losing quality, because it's very important. I'm going to show you at the end of this how important this really is, because with the technique that I do here, I get about 20 or 30% more power in my imaging and in my orchestrations from this. I'll show you at the end, not to get too sidetracked. So at any rate, panning wise, all 4 of these sections are now done. So if I play all of them at the same time, I hear a very, very center sound. And as I told you about the volume, by the way, if you look at the volumes over here, you can significantly see how much louder first chair, because I didn't turn it down in this video, but look at how much louder first chair is. When you turn the mod wheel all the way down, look at first chair. Still ripping out there. So I typically tend to turn that down. I turn it down. a lot so that it blends. That's just me. It ends up working a little bit better. I don't turn it down so much so that it becomes invisible to the section. I just think that it stands out too much. I like 6. It still bleeds a little louder, as you can see. That's the mod wheel turned all the way down. You can still see he is very dominant. But it just sounds more blended to my ears. Anyway, this is about panning. So, they're now ready. Everything is center panned. I can hear it right in front of my face. Now let's go ahead and add each one of these to MIR. Alright, so each one of them is added to MIR. I loaded up just a Teldex for this. So now let's take the first chair. I'm not going to get too deep into, or at all, into what you can do with it all over here, and the size and the character and yada yada, since this is just about panning. I'm going to spin it. I'm going to put it like right here is where it basically would be for real. When I play that, you're not going to be able to hear this through my headset microphone. It's just not going to be able to pick up imaging because it's a mono headphone mic. But when I do this now, I hear a beautifully left-panned first chair, but it's filling my whole room with sound because I have, I would say, like a 70% left, 30% right, because of the way MIR works, which is natural. The room acoustics really pump that right side because the sound carries in the whole room. So I kind of like that. I've done this so many times that I've pretty much gotten to know that about in somewhere within this vicinity is my favorite spot to have this first chair. Second chair section is a chamber, so I'm just going to go ahead and make it chamber just a little bigger. Just drop it in. Here you're typically going to find A right next to first chair. Then you're going to find B next to them or behind them. Sometimes you'll find them in a triangle like this. Depends on how big of a room you're dealing with and how many people. But for the sake of how I typically do it, sorry for all the zooming, I have a buttonless mouse. And so if you get anywhere near the center of it, it auto scrolls in. So section C is 8. It's a little bigger. And I typically like to do it mine like this. That's how I typically do mine. Something like that. I might space them out a little more. Depends on how many sections I'm using, how big of a sound I'm looking for. It really depends. But this gives you an idea, is now that I have all 4 of them separately panned to the left side. Sounds pretty awesome to me. So that is how I would handle my panning. That's how you pre-pan them to the center and then use MIR to put them wherever you want. Now, to finish this video, let me show you real quick with these sections why I find this power pan so powerful. Try to explain this. This is just what I think is going on, and I think I'm right, but it doesn't mean I am. Let's take the first chair, for instance. Now, in MIR, look at how far I have it to the left. Okay, that's pretty far left panned. Knowing that, had I not dealt with the panning ahead of time, the pre-panning of each section, not only would MIR have panned it here, but then the pre-panning that's coming from their seating positions and recorded positions would have thrown them more out here, and it would have ultimately sounded like they were out here. It always translates to me that they are much more distant, because when I strong hard focus each one of them to the center, I'm getting full strength stereo signal right in the dead center, which significantly increases the power of the instrument and how much natural volume there is to start with. Then when I use MIR, I end up getting much more power because MIR has a direct audio signal that's all focused now right here. Because MIR's taking a dead-centered stereo and just placing it here and then doing its magic. Had I not pre-panned these, MIR would be trying to put something right here that's really been recorded over here. So now it sounds worse that this A would have sounded like it was here and this first chair would have sounded like it was here, but back here. It just, the way it translated gives a much less close, much less intimate, and a much more further, it sounds like it's been EQ'd to throw it further back. So it sounds like I had moved them back here. So if I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but you can do your own test. I ended up realizing this when I was dealing with center panning them. I noticed that for some reason every time I turned off the panning, they just were not nearly as loud. And I don't mean screechy, painful loud. I just mean more presence, much more, definitely more volume, like 3 dB or more. So if I turn those off, this is the volume we hear right now. If I turn that on, it center pans everything and then gives MIR more direct access to a full centered stereo audio signal. Now when I play it, look at the volume bars. They're even louder. Look at it. I mean, it's quite significant. So by doing what I've done here, not only does it end in a much better resulting sound, but you're able to get the strings where they really belong, which is in the first row. The only thing that should sound any closer basically than strings would be, you know, like the solo performer, the voice, or an oboe, or somebody who's actually out front doing their solo, the solo band per se. But you can see, look at how much louder that is. So I get a whole lot more strength in my image, both on the left and right from that. So that's how I do all my center panning, and that's how I use it in conjunction with MIR. Hope that helped.